Good afternoon. This Township of Selwyn Council meeting for Tuesday, May the 13th, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mishi, Sagag, and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. I would ask that all comments, questions, and answers be directed through me as the chair. This includes public, staff, and council members. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that. We have the minutes of our last meeting, April the 22nd, 2025. Everybody had a chance to look them over. Any errors or omissions? If not, can I have someone move them? Moved by Councillor Koulis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none, we will go to our first deputation, Mr. Andy Mitchell, who is our Selwyn Library Board Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. It's very much appreciated. And before I get into the slide deck, I'm going to say a few thank yous. So first of all, a thank you to Council and the staff of the Township. We're very fortunate at the library to have a strong and collaborative relationship with the organization. We're very appreciative of it. It tends to personify itself with Lane, who serves both as the township and our board treasurer, and we're very appreciative of that. But we're very thankful to the kind of relationship we have between the library and the township. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Sarah, our CEO and chief librarian, for all of her leadership and her staff as well. They're a very dedicated group of employees who provide tremendous support to the organization. Also, to our volunteers, you'll have noted in the annual report, we have a significant number of volunteers, and they all are very dedicated to the mission of the library. And quite frankly, without their help and assistance, carrying on the operation in the manner that we do would be very, very challenging. I'd also like to note our board members, one of whom is here, Barb. Thank you for being here. Our board of directors, all of who work very, very hard for the library.
I'm on the board too.
And of course, we wouldn't want to forget our council rep. Okay. So I'm going to try to do this because let's see if I can. There we go. That's pretty easy. Okay. So the reality is that the library is what I would consider a significant community asset, which touches all across the whole township of Selwyn in a variety of different ways. The picture sort of demonstrates that we have 4 different operations, physical operations, one in each of the wards, and we also now operate the makerspace is a 4th piece of our operation. So quite extensively throughout all of the township. Here we go. Okay, we mentioned our volunteers, as I said, 160 volunteers. And if you take a look at that number, there's over 14,000 hours of volunteers. If you do the math, that's the equivalent of 7 full-time staff, about somewhere close to $500,000. Is what's contributed in the form of foregone wages for those volunteers. So you can see how significant those volunteers are to our operations. Okay, this year I wanted to make special note of when I was here for the budget last year, we made a commitment that the board would undertake its own fundraiser, which it did. We were able to raise a net of $9,500. And I want to thank all of our board members, including the mayor, because she participated significantly in it as well. But I also want to thank it and do it publicly, the business community in Selwyn, who were very generous in supporting the golf tournament, along with a number of residents in our community who participated in it. And the fact that we're able to raise a percentage of the funding from the community provides us additional resources for community programming. One of the more traditional ways that we've increased or we've raised revenue is through our Causeway Treasure Trove and Ennismore thrift shops. We partner with Community Care, and it was really good to see that whereas it had a very challenging time during COVID, in a post-COVID era, it has bounced back and is a significant partnership for us at the library. So our circulation, we are circulating almost 100,000 in terms of physical books and close to 40,000 in digital checkouts. That's a strong circulation in our community, and the numbers have recovered to pre-pandemic numbers. So what has changed a bit is some of the shift to digital from that occurred during the pandemic has remained, and so a greater percentage of our lending is through the digital library as opposed to through the physical books. Okay, so I've often said this before, the library is a holistic service to the community. It's more than just a book lending institution. It's a multifaceted organization, provides residents and visitors a unique set of services. So that includes our lending through our 3 branches, our partnership with Community Care, which I mentioned earlier, that provides a unique retail offering along with an ability to raise money. We have special collections that allow us to complement our local tourism offerings, serve seasonal residents, and provides products to people who may not be able to afford them on a permanent basis. The Makerspace uses technology to teach new skills, create new and innovative products, and provides opportunity for new and emerging small businesses. And as well, as was noted in the report, provides an opportunity to raise revenue as well. We have a comprehensive suite of children's programming that allows for enhanced learning and as an opportunity for parents to provide new opportunities to their kids. And we have adult programming that allows for new experience for adults and in many cases, recreational opportunities for seniors. So there is a list of some of our special collection items that we offer. And in our special children's programming, over 5,000 individual kids attending our children's programming. That's really, really significant. It's a large reach right across the township, and you see there listed a number of the type of programmings that we offer. And I can't go without saying we've got a couple of our staff members who are really innovative in coming up with this program, and it makes for a really significant opportunity for our kids to be involved. We have adult programming as well. You see some of the programming. We don't have as many attendees. Most of the adults that participate in the library do it through lending, but we also have those programs, and they are often well attended. And we have our Makerspace. So we have 21 Makerspace volunteers, 68 programs, 364 attendees. It's really, I think all of council has had an opportunity to be in the Makerspace. It's a very interesting and innovative addition to the library, and it's used extensively by people from across the township. And as I mentioned, it is also a revenue source for us. One of the things that makes the library special, I believe, is the fact that we have the wide variety of partnerships that we have. You see some of them there. We're present at the Shamrock Festival. We have our Holly Tea and Craft Sale in the fall. We're part of the Lakefield Literary Festival. We're often at the Lakefield Farmers Market. I mentioned our Community Care partnership. And so we try to integrate ourselves throughout the community, and we're very appreciative of all the support that we get from various organizations throughout. There's some of the feedback that we've received. It's for the most part, it's positive feedback of people who use the library. And I'm just going to finish off with some of the challenges ahead. So as much as we are successful as a library, it's important as a board, we believe, to be forward-looking and to have an understanding of the challenges that we're going to face and begin to think about how we're going to meet them. So obviously, one of them is how do we match our physical space requirements with that expected population growth? So we've got the 3 branches. I think all of you have been in all of them. There's not a lot of extra space in any of them. And as our population grows, we need to be able to match that space. We also need to be able to deal with the second one that has an impact on that, and that is the correct balance between physical books and electronic lending. Obviously, the more electronic lending that you're doing, the more that your books are online, the less space that you need. So those 2 things really are a discussion that have to happen hand in hand. How do we keep our collections up to date in the face of rapidly increasing costs? So the cost of both physical and electronic books are far outstripping the rate of inflation. And that obviously is a concern. One of the values of a library is that it has an up-to-date collection. And so we need to do that, but we're faced with increasing costs. And then the final item that I put out here for challenges ahead is how do we staff the library in an era of declining volunteerism? We have great volunteers. They're very dedicated, but if I could put it, the environment for volunteerism in 2025 is very different than it was 20 years ago. And so we need to adjust to that as a library board and as a library. The good news is we've undertaken a strategic planning process. We've just begun that. It's started right now. There is a survey. I believe it's still up there. If anybody's watching and you would like to switch over to the survey as the library board chair, I'd ask you to complete that if you could. And members of council and staff as well, if they'd like to fill out that survey. So we're going to go through that process over the next 4 or 5 months and come up, hopefully, with some answers to some of those challenges. So that's my presentation, Madam Mayor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And I believe your declining volunteerism probably should be at the top of that list as far as the issues that we face, because it seems that there are less willing to volunteer, and when they do, they only want to do it for a short period of time. So it makes it very difficult for our staff to try and ensure that there are sufficient to run the various branches. And we talk about making sure we have enough space to look after our increasing population. However, if we end up where we have less and less volunteers, we may have to look at possibly closing a branch, and we don't want to do that. It's just, not while I'm on council. Anyway, yeah, it's not a fun thing to even talk about, but it's a reality, correct?
Well, it's always one of the possibilities, but I feel the same as you, Madam Mayor. That's not one path that I want to walk down. I think one of the values to our library system is that we're throughout all of the township. I'd like to do everything we can to maintain that, and the board is committed to that as well, as you know, being a member of the board, and we will work through our strategic plan to find ways that we can work to make sure that we continue to be in all parts of the township. But you're right to point out, it is indeed a challenge.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Andy, Deputy Mayor Black?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation, and it's always a pleasure to hear all the good things that are happening in the library. As the mayor was talking about volunteerism and that sort of thing, is there within your strategic plan, is there a volunteer recruitment component of that, or is there a focused program on trying to constantly recruit new volunteers?
There is, and I'm going to ask Sarah because we do have, although we do get a significant new number of volunteers on a regular basis. Sarah, you probably have those numbers, right?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah. So we are constantly recruiting. I think this past week we recruited 3 new volunteers in Bridgenorth alone, and we're bringing on 3 new in Lakefield. It's just the challenge of that changing volunteer landscape that we're struggling with. So just more project-based volunteerism is what people are looking for. Just other commitments as well, sickness, travel, all of those things are kind of playing a role in that. In terms of our volunteer recruitment model, we do have within our policies that very well laid out, but it is something that we will be exploring more with our strategic plan process.
Yeah, no, I think it's somewhat in an area that we depend on some organic growth to come and show up, but I think as we all know, all the organizations that I belong to that require volunteers, you actively have to recruit now. You really have to put a program in place to make that happen. One follow-up question to Andy as well. Keeping the books up to date, do you get people donating? They bought the latest some books that you want. Do you actively go out and try and recruit people to donate the books after they've read them to the library, or is that something that's
Sarah?
Through you, by the time they get to us after they've been donated, it's months. So we are typically purchasing those new books. We're being more cognizant of the number of copies that we're purchasing.
right?
Typically, we might purchase a couple more for Bridgenorth. Now we might reconsider whether or not we need one for all branches. So yeah, it's definitely a consideration.
Thank you.
Other questions? Just want to remind council and staff that we do have another Twilight Golf Tournament on July the 18th. I encourage you all to join in as a foursome. We've got or to come for the dinner. We've got some great prizes again. Not prizes, what are they? Auction items that you might be interested in. So yeah, I encourage you all to join up to have a fun afternoon with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like someone to move to receive the presentation. Councillor Koulis and Councillor Boyko seconding, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we go to question period. Are there any questions that have come in?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, we have actually 3 questions. So I'll just go through them one at a time, if that's okay. The questions are all from Alexandra Anderson. She is the Executive Director for Camping in Ontario. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to ask a question on behalf of the camping industry. Campgrounds in your township draw tourists from all over the province to shop in the stores and eat in your restaurants. We also pay an annual license fee. You cited that development fees are to be charged for roads, fire, parks, library, and emergency preparedness. The campgrounds appear to be singled out as the only tourism option to raise funds.
That's a question.
It's a sort of question, I guess.
Layton, would you like to tackle that?
Sure, to you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so I guess first of all, we want to recognize the importance of the camping industry to the township. I acknowledge that in my report that comes up later on in the agenda for sure. So my report and all past reports do outline the purpose of a development charge. So that kind of goes through some of those questions as well. We do have a license for campgrounds annually. We have about 20 of them. License fee is about $100. So, $2,000 essentially helps defray the administration costs. And I don't even know if it would defray all the costs. And I think I could be comfortable in saying that it doesn't. It offsets some of the costs of administration. So it doesn't actually go towards covering costs outlined in like for policing or fire or anything. It's just the administration of the licensing.
Another question?
Yes, so her second question is, my question is, why are short-term rental accommodations not being charged for their visitors who use the road, fire, and police?
Wayne?
So I could answer that to you, Madam Mayor. So development charges are charged as a result of the issuance of a building permit. So if a property obtains a building permit, then they would pay a development charge if applicable. And there's a number of rules about if it's applicable or not. So presumably, if a property were to apply for a building permit and was going to be used as a short-term rental, then a DC charge would be applied if that was applicable in that instance.
So basically it's comparing an apple to an orange. Next question.
And her last question is, replacing a park model unit is not adding any new burden to your roads or fire or police. May we please have the justification of why replacing a like unit would cause a charge apart from the issuance of a building permit?
Wayne?
Yeah, so once again, through you, Madam Mayor, definitely the issuance of the building permit is the main issue here, right? So it would seem that not all park models were installed without the benefit of a building permit. So what is being considered today in the report before council is amending the bylaw to address this type of like for like discussion. So park model for park model. The way that the bylaw is worded right now, if a park model was to be replaced for another park model, they'd have to provide a demolition permit or evidence of a demolition permit or permit within the last 5 years. So what's being proposed in today's report for council consideration is possible amendment to that on that like for like idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll now move on in the agenda to Angie. You are going to be talking about our 2026 municipal election voting method. It's coming up.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we are getting ready for next year's municipal election, which takes place on October the 26th of 2026. It's amazing how 4 years is, well, 3 years is already whizzing by here. So we do want to just bring forward the recommendation that we do move forward with using alternative voting methods to conduct the 2026 election. In 2018 and in 2022, we used internet and telephone voting. It was very successful. The features of the voting method are noted in the report. I won't go through all of those. So it definitely worked very well for those past two elections. So we are recommending that for the 2026 election, we use this similar voting method. We do want to get working on this right away because what we'd like to do is work with the other townships in the county of Peterborough to issue a joint request for proposal to voting providers so that we can all work together and obtain hopefully a very competitive price to implement that type of voting system.
All right. Any questions of Angie? Deputy Mayor Platt.
Thank you, through Mayor. Thanks for the report, Angie. And, looking at your statistics, participation rate 24.55% in the last election, there was no mayor and deputy mayor, thank God. Which probably would drive some numbers a little bit higher, obviously, but so I guess my question really is there any evidence to show that alternative methods like the federal election where you go in and do your blind ballot basically would produce a better participation? I don't know if there's been any research done. This kind of approach is fairly new in the last 5 to 10 years, say. Is there any evidence that there's better participation if people can walk up and put a ballot in a box?
I'm not aware of any analytical research that would demonstrate that. I can say we still do have people come to the office on election day thinking that there's a poll here, which is fine. And essentially there's a poll here. They're just not filling it out on a paper ballot. So if you were to think your way through that, I'm not sure that if people didn't even know that internet and telephone was available and it just assumed, because I can guarantee you every election, I have somebody come in and say, I voted with a paper last time. I'm like, no, you didn't. But they will insist that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll still come and they will be able to vote on voting day here at the office.
Yeah, it just concerns me. I mean, when you look at the federal election, sorry, through you, Mayor, 74% participation. Huge, right? I mean,
Yep.
obviously a big issue. People are less likely to vote in municipal elections normally anyways, but historically, the trend has been, I think, lower over the years, if I'm correct there.
I don't have the statistics in front of me. I can go back and show you that. I completely agree with you, though, that it depends on the race
Yeah.
and what the issues are. And yeah, I think the last federal election, I'm not sure you could make an argument that the paper ballot got people out to vote. I think it
No.
was other reasons for
Other
that.
reasons,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And without having a township-wide mayor and deputy mayor race, it really does impact your voter participation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if we didn't have the internet voting, it would have been even lower, I think. Because 84% of the people voted that way, so.
Through you, Madam Chair, I will say as well, we have to remember as well, it is convenient for people who don't physically live in our township but are eligible voters. So we could actually, if you didn't make it as accessible as it was, maybe it would actually work in the reverse. So just bear that in mind.
All right, Councillor Boyko.
Yeah, I have a question on the recommendation, and I like the idea of going to telephone voting. I'm not in opposition at all. But with the kiosk that was here, I had a number of people, because they were voting in the Lakefield ward, ask me, is there a paper ballot? I don't trust the internet. And I told them, yes, there will be a poll at the township office. Now, not many people used it. In the recommendation, it doesn't say that there will be a kiosk. Will there still be a kiosk available for those people who still want to mark their X? I know they're not doing it on paper, but they still want to come in and mark their X.
Yes, there will still be a voting location here at the office.
Perfect. In that case, I will move the recommendation.
Right, moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor, that's carried, thank you. And we will now be hearing from Paris with regards to corporate greenhouse gas emissions progress report. Paris.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thanks. So through you, Madam Mayor, I'm here, as you said, to walk you through our greenhouse gas report update for our corporate emissions. So to inform council, I'd like to begin by reminding everyone that the province of Ontario's Green Energy Act requires all municipalities to do two things. One of those being reporting annually to the Ministry of Energy on their energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, which we're in the process of doing. And the second is to develop a 5-year conservation plan and update it every 5 years. So the township did this in 2024, so we're good until 2029. The intent of this report is to highlight the township's efforts to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions across the township's corporate sectors and demonstrate its progress in reaching the greenhouse gas emissions reductions target outlined in our climate change action plan, which was developed in 2016, where we set that goal. So our corporate greenhouse gas emissions refer to those that are generated by our municipal operations. And this is comprised of, if you saw in the report, our fleet vehicles, our solid waste management, our municipal facilities, so our buildings, our water and sewage treatment, and our street lighting. And our corporate greenhouse gas emissions are represented as metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So if you see that unit in there, that's what it stands for. Now, I will say this report does not include our community greenhouse gas data, although this is something we're working on. It's just a bit trickier to get a hold of as opposed to the corporate data, which we have readily available to us. So the delay in reporting our community data can be attributed to specifically trying to track down our livestock numbers, our emissions based on land use, and the kilometers being traveled by private vehicles within Selwyn Township between years 2011 and 2023. So understandably, it's a little bit hard to track down. But my main takeaway for the report today is that as of 2023, Selwyn Township has reduced its corporate greenhouse gas emissions by 68%, or if you'd rather a number, over 8,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. So that's really good news. And referring back to our climate change action plan, in that plan, we set out a goal to reduce emissions by 40% by the year 2031. So looking now, we have reduced, actually, we've overshot that. We've reduced by 68% by 2025. So that's great news. And then as well, in 2023, Selwyn Township's corporate emissions generated 3,985 tons of CO2 equivalent. So that is significantly less, or 68% less than what we started at in 2011. Because of this, we can attribute our greenhouse gas reductions over recent years to some of our sustainable efforts, which include converting our streetlights to LED lighting, focusing on our waste diversion at Smith Landfill, which has really brought our numbers down. So this includes our clear bag policy, our hazardous waste depot, the county curbside leaf and yard waste collection, separating our construction and demolition at the landfill. All of that keeps things out of the landfill, and then as well as upgrading our vehicles and focusing on our electric vehicles, of course. And then in our building sector, doing retrofits and upgrades as needed has helped reduce that as well. So those are the main takeaways from the report. And my recommendation moving forward, I'll just reiterate that the report regarding the corporate greenhouse gas emissions progress of 2023 be received for information, and that staff continue to explore our future recommendations outlined in the 2025 corporate greenhouse gas emissions progress report to achieve further corporate greenhouse gas emissions reductions. As you saw in the report, some of these include, for example, exploring FCM funding for energy audits for our corporate facilities, looking at retrofit parking for the lighting of our parking lots, transitioning those to LED, investigating corporate green procurement policies, and then also focusing on right-sized fleet and exploring more low emissions or alternate fuel options for our vehicles. Yeah, so that was the main takeaways. Thank you for your time. And if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you.
All right. Are there any questions for Paris? Deputy Mayor Platt.
Me again. Thanks for the report. It's a great report. I really enjoyed reading it. Actually, many know I got involved in local politics because of garbage, to the regret of many, I think, but I am still here. No, I mean, clearly the waste management piece is the golden goose here as far as getting the numbers down. And so when you look at your graphs, kind of between 17 and 20, it was pretty stable, not a lot of change. Then all of a sudden in 21, 22, 23, we start to see reductions again. How much of that reduction is related to the food cycler composting? I know what most of our garbage doesn't go to our landfill site, but what do you attribute that change? I know all the things that you said already, but is there one area that you think we can continue that trend? We seem to be dropping a fair amount each year. What do you think would contribute to that? And moving forward, where should the focus be on the waste management piece?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. It's hard to say specifically. I don't have a quantification. I don't have a number for exactly how much our food cyclers have helped in those recent years, but I will say making sure that food waste doesn't end up in the landfill is a big factor as it's high in producing methane. But again, all of these things are big factors, you know. Our leaf and yard waste not going to our landfill is a big contributor. It's not necessarily helping wherever it's going on Harper Road, but it's helping our numbers. And as well, the construction and demolition as well is a big factor because that stuff, trying to have it break down in the landfill and such is not a great contributing factor to our numbers. Moving forward, I would continue to pursue the things that we are pursuing and of course, looking at organics breakdown in the future and organics collection would be the biggest next step. I think that would be the greatest help, but yeah.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, again, follow up. So the other question that comes up often is the leaf and pickup around the township, and there's areas that are serviced and there's areas that aren't serviced. If we were to service more of those areas, what do you think that impact would have? And again, that would go to composting at the county. It's a county program. But are we having residents taking those to our landfill that otherwise it might go to the county to be composted there?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So sorry, you're asking if our leaf and yard waste collection, if we were to do it at the Smith landfill, it would.
So right now, there's only about 7,000 households that get.
Yeah, Angie might know a little better.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Who
go
are you
ahead.
pointing at? Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, it looks like you're pointing.
Sorry about that. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just to be clear as well, the leaf and yard depots at during the curbside collection period, that does get picked up and taken to Harper Road.
Right.
Okay, so we just need to be clear that anything that is brought to the landfill directly during the curbside pickup is taken out of the landfill.
Sorry, just again for clarity. So if a Selwyn resident brings yard waste to the Selwyn landfill site, it's actually moved from there to Harper Road?
Correct, up to
Okay.
a maximum amount. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
so so not all of that material does stay in the landfill.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kulis.
Through you, I'll start with one comment. I believe my household is included in that and we don't use it because we can compost in our backyard. So I don't know if the numbers are proper. And then that follow-up leads me into my question to Paris is, what does the community survey look like? Can you give us a picture of what that looks like or how you're collecting that information at this point?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I will say that Lily was the one who began the collection for that. And then she kind of sent off some of the questions that we still had in reference to the agriculture and livestock numbers and transportation. And we are waiting to hear back from some other companies that are working through that for us. I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but I could definitely get back to you with how we're breaking things down. We've just been so immersed in the corporate stuff so far that the community has taken a little bit of a backseat.
And one follow-up is, when I was at AMO, I actually talked with the food cycler people, and they now have a school program where they work with municipalities and the municipality goes out or donates a food cycler to the school, and then they provide a booklet of how to use it. So if staff are willing to donate their time, because they are union and we have to recognize that, there is opportunity to educate the youth. So thinking long-term, that might be a possibility for us to consider. I don't know if you, Paris, have worked with Food Cycler on that educational piece yet. I wasn't aware of it. I haven't looked it up, but they were really pushing it. So just curious what we've heard or what we're considering.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I haven't worked on the educational piece yet, but I think that's a great idea. I know our schools, like their waste diversion is atrocious to say the least. So yeah, I would definitely be happy to look into that. And yeah.
sorry, one more comment, just because
Yeah.
I know I've done the food cycling with schools. A lot of schools don't have capacity to compost, or there's rat issues or something, so they actually persuade away from it. My thinking here, just to be clear, is like donating like one and having it circulate around classes more as an educational tool, not like fully pushing composting at the school, because that's a whole other level to consider. Unless they're part of the pilot in Bridge North, maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't believe we have any left. There was a longer waiting list than there was for food cyclers, correct?
Yes,
So
yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna be looking at the third cycle of the food cycler or not, but I know there were more people than there were actual units, so. And I've been getting calls about that, so. We have a recommendation in front of us. Is there someone who would like to move it? Councillor Coolers, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. Favor, that's carried. Thank you. And now we will go to Lane with regards to the development charges.
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to the report. So the reports provide to council because of correspondence that is included in today's package. And some discussions that we've had with the RV and camping industry. And obviously some concerns that they raised. So I'll just go through them in order. First one is from Park Bridge Resorts. This was correspondence that came in subsequent to the agenda deadline last time, and it is in today's package. And I won't go through all of the points, but the key one here I wanted to comment on is the statement that park model trailers and trailer parks don't impact on municipal services. So I think it's clear, and I think it's clear to council that they most certainly do impact municipal services in the same manner that other seasonal dwellings would. Township roads are used to access the seasonal properties and the trailer parks. Libraries and library services are available to all seasonal guests, all guests really. Fire services are available to respond to the campground sites and the seasonal dwellings, both. And then our township parks and trails are open and available to any guest in the township. So those are the four main areas that our development charge actually provides funding for. Outlined in that correspondence, they speak to water and sewer, but definitely our township-wide development charge does not fund water and sewer. And we recognize that some of those resorts actually do provide their own, but the development charge doesn't apply there. Likewise, our development charge has no way collects any development charge for education, which was also outlined in that correspondence. So moving on to the next piece of correspondence, also receives subsequent to the last agenda deadline. This comes from Mr. Faulkner at General Coach Canada, which is a manufacturer of park model homes. A number of documents there that are attached, but probably the main point here is he states that precedent has already been set by other municipalities regarding development charges on park model trailers. And just to be clear on that, the documents provided establish that there are certain municipalities that don't charge development charges or exempt them on park model trailers. But as council is aware, and through our presentations from our consultant, there are also many other municipalities that do apply development charges to park model trailers. Locally, Autonomy South Monaghan, Trent Lakes, but also Rideau Lakes, Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, and others. So there are some that don't, and there are some that do. And the final piece of correspondence, it was actually just in today's package from Camping in Ontario. And it was also the representative that sent in the question today that we've responded to already. And as I mentioned at the time, we wonder, sometimes when we get into issues like this and they're a little contentious, there's statements made about, doesn't council and staff recognize the impact? We definitely recognize the impact the campgrounds have, and we appreciate the tourists that come into our areas, guests from across the province and beyond. But likewise, we also appreciate our local building industry as well and the work that they do. And so both of these are impacted by the development charges. So to suggest that we don't appreciate either one is not the case at all. All of our meetings are broadcast, and as the mayor outlines, at the start of every meeting, broadcast available on the internet, and you can review it later. Ratepayers, business owners, and any stakeholder in our community has already access to the proceedings and are an accepted means of becoming aware of what's going on in the community. So as a business owner and as a campground owner, there's an onus to become aware of what's going on in your community if you're a community stakeholder. We provided notice of the development charges study as permitted by provincial legislation. As outlined by our consultant, the amending bylaw actually sought to clarify a definition of the park model home. And if there was no change, then Robert, when applying a development charge for a building application, could have actually attracted the highest charge if there was no evidence to prove that something had happened within the last 5 years with respect to that model. What this amending bylaw actually does is clarify that a park model trailer installation subject to building permit would attract the lowest development charge applicable. So without this clarification, that full development charge would apply for those installations subject to a building permit. So it's the building permit application process, the installation, and then that's what attracts the development charge. And then in this instance, what we're trying to clarify here is this is the lowest charge, recognizing park model trailers are large in comparison to some of the other trailers, but then they are also of a seasonal nature in our township. So having regard for the correspondence and Teams meeting that we had, we've provided a number of options for council at this point, and of course, council may have other options to discuss as well. One is that council could kind of change course and say, no, we do want to exempt park model trailers from development charges like some of these other municipalities did. Option 3 is that council could just receive this report for information. So we acknowledge the information that's been provided and we stay the course and apply the lowest rate to park model trailers. The second option, so option 2 is in the middle, is it's outlined in my report, is to have our consultant maybe consider some additional options with respect to this like for like discussion. So if there was a park model trailer existing before and it was replaced with an if a new park model replaced that existing park model, not another trailer or an unoccupied site, but maybe like for like, then there could be some consideration there with respect to the paperwork. Because I'd mentioned before, we have a fairly good feeling that not a lot of existing park models actually went through the building permit process before. So that's another option for council to consider. Yeah, at this point, I'll maybe leave it there for any questions.
Yeah, before I turn it over to council, actually in the recommendation, it does say to consider additional options related to the park model trailer. So it's actually recommending the second option, correct?
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes. So, yeah, so the recommendation as stated is for option 2.
Right.
It was kind of the first part was if you didn't want to do anything else, you could just receive the report for
No, I
information.
understand that. It's just had a conversation and I was told something different.
Yep.
If we were to go with that option 2 to engage the consultant, what would that cost?
Well, yeah, so the consultant has essentially completed the work that we had a proposal for at this point because we were in that appeal period. The cost of the amending bylaw for the park model homes was less than $10,000. We did have some additional work that we put into that. And I would like to think that maybe the existing considerations would be less than that. But to give council an idea, it's probably between $5,000 and $10,000 for additional funds.
Right, thank you. Councilor Boyko.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Senes. I like the idea of option 2. And I question whether it is a good idea that we are asking for development charges to be applied when a trailer is simply replaced with another trailer. Those development charges, I think, will have already been paid, and we'll be asking for it to be paid again. I have a motion here, but I want to ask the question, since staff writes bylaws, that's what they are good at doing, would it be possible for staff to write a bylaw that would amend our current development charge bylaw, making it clear that development charges will not apply to the replacement of a similar park model, permanent or seasonal trailer on the same existing serviced lot? Could staff write that amendment, or would it necessitate a consultant being hired to write that amendment?
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. So I do want to address your preamble because I'm not aware of any at this point park model trailers that have already paid a development charge. So you had stated at the start that we would be buying or we would be collecting again. I'm not aware of any. And so the way that our existing bylaw is written, it would say they need to provide some type of demolition permit, that type of thing, to provide evidence. That's what's caused the issue with the industry, is that there are a number of them that are installed without the benefit of a building permit. And because of that, then they wouldn't have paid a development charge. So like right off the bat, that's kind of an issue. I think they haven't paid in the past, so we're asking them to pay now. So it's point one. The second point is, because we went through a process, we had a background study. There's prerequisites for notice and there's an appeal period, those types of things, which we're still within. There would be a requirement for a modified study again. So that's not, it isn't just a bylaw change. We'd have to engage the consultant, review the aspect of the existing study, if there are amendments to that study, and then amend the various bylaws. Probably there's 4 or 5 or something. So I think I could just say, no, we wouldn't be able to. We would have to engage a consultant.
Okay, if I could, yeah. The first point, the point I was trying to make is this is what it would be going forward, should any in the future be replaced. I understand that they haven't paid the development charge so far. Thank you.
Councillor, oh, Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks for the report, Lane. I mean, clearly we want to, support development in the township, and we need development charges to support the growth of the township. There's no doubt about that. We have trailer parks definitely do use a lot of services, roads, fire, ambulance, garbage, recycling, all of those sorts of things. But I have a question around the like for like or the replacement type of thing with regards to how we implement the development charges for like a single family home. So if somebody has a single family home and they get a demolition permit to demolish it and put up another home, maybe not similar, maybe the old one was 800 square feet and the new one's 1,500 square feet. Would a development charge apply in that case when they basically changed the size of the home or anything like that? Would that apply?
No, I'll get Robert to kick in at any point in time, but I think what you're asking about is the redevelopment credits. So there's a section in the bylaw that talks about redevelopment credits. And so if somebody were to come forward with the home that you've talked about and apply for a demolition permit and a building permit and move forward and replace, then Robert would review the file and say in that instance, there would be a redevelopment credit. So there would be no development charge.
So, yeah, so there's the precedent as far as how you apply it equally and fairly. So with regards to the trailer park, when it was developed, all those lots were charged a development charge at the time, or was the trailer park just charged any kind of development fee?
No. We're starting it now.
So there was no development sheet, just even on the actual rezoning of the property to trailer park, there was no development charges that were applied. Okay, so that's clear. So I guess, you know, my concern is again, replacing a travel trailer, again, I'm not 100% sure on the terminology, but some of these travel trailers are as big as the park trailers. Replacing it with a park trailer on the same site. Would that credit still apply even though there hasn't been one paid previously? Or would the development charge only address new sites? Because new sites are adding the impact on services. Replacing a travel trailer with a park trailer doesn't have the impact on services necessarily. That a new site 100%. I support the bylaw. I support the development charge. But if we're not adding a site, are we really adding additional services or wear and tear that would constitute the development charges? In the bylaw, it says what triggers the development charge is the fact they need a building permit. But needing a building permit to replace your house doesn't necessarily generate a development charge either. So again, I'm just more concerned about the application of it and that it's, you know, it's fairly applied.
Right. Yeah, so once again, Robert's free to jump in, but yeah, I think the main thing on the redevelopment credits is whether there's a building permit application. So in the one scenario that you had outlined there would be a demolition permit to take something down, a building permit to rebuild something. If that happened within a 5-year period, then there would be no development charge.
Right.
In the instance that we're talking about here, if a park model came in and there was a building application, then they would have to show, okay, within the last 5 years, I've had a demo permit or some of these different things. They can't demonstrate that for the most part, what we're hearing. So what the option 2 would look at is some possibility of, okay, if it's a park model coming out and a park model going in, maybe they wouldn't have to provide that evidence. And Robert would be within his rights under the amended bylaw to then not have to collect that, right? The question of what size travel trailer, right? That has came up in our teams meeting with the group and that discussion, right? If you have a small travel trailer, I think the group referred to a 8-foot wide Destiny trailer. What's the difference between that and a park model? You know, some of the park models can have 2 or 3 bedrooms in them versus a travel trailer, right? So that's the question. So what we've talked about at this point is at least if and the industry has brought up this idea of like for like, then that's our possibility is to say if an old park model comes out and a new park model goes in, then in those instances, Robert wouldn't need to require them to have had a building permit or demolition permit within the last 5 years. And in that instance, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if they're pulling out, sorry, through you, Mayor, if they're pulling out the travel trailer, they're not getting a demolition permit because it's going to some site recycling place typically, so that wouldn't be part of the solution there. So just as a follow-up to our consultant, and I hate to say consultants anymore at this point, did they bring up this issue that this could be a challenge, or that was this discussed as part of information they provided to staff to say this might be a challengeable? Because this has been going on in the industry for a number of years now. This is nothing new to Selwyn Township.
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Madam Mayor. I can definitely just comment on that. Whenever a development charge bylaw goes out, it's available for appeal, right? 40-day appeal period. And so we definitely knew that there were some areas that didn't have development charges, and then we provided council with areas that did have development charge rates. So whenever that goes out, it's always available. And the question of growth pays for growth and all those things, we're well aware of that. So yeah, we didn't need that to be pointed out specifically. I don't know if Robert, did you have a comment?
Robert?
Through Mayor, I was just going to clarify that when a travel trailer is pulled out, travel trailer is essentially treated in the eyes as a vehicle. That they're plated, right? But when you have an existing park model that you're pulling out, you're removing the building, and that's where, even if they haven't paid in the past, we're looking at the option of granting them the credit. And then when they apply for a building permit to move the new manufactured building on the site, that's when the development charge would be applicable.
Any other questions? All right, so what do we want to do with this? It appears with option 2, there's going to be a charge regardless. I need some direction from Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sinas. I personally am in support of option 3. We've been down this road and we had a number of people come forward after the fact, after they were well informed, and we did follow the rules and regs that we are guided by. Kind of sets a precedent first that we're willing to backtrack every time something comes along. Do we want to go spend more money on a consultant that we've already spent money on? Me, no, personally. Because then we'd have to change the bottom of this recommendation that says there's no financial impact based on the above noted recommendation. Clearly there will be. So personally, I'm in support of option 3. We keep moving forward. Otherwise, this is going to burn up a lot of time. I don't think it's worth the money or the effort at this point because we've already done our due diligence.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment because I was reviewing the emails. And I was trying to think of the examples the individuals submitted, and I don't actually think that they're comparable to Selwyn, like they're different contexts. So that to me is also an indicator that it just can't support it in that capacity. But I also do, I'm sitting here on option 3 just because we've been through this. I think there's other things kind of on our plate right now. Unless staff has anything else they want to add at this point, but I'm looking at option 3.
William, second it. Yeah, motion's on the floor. Yeah.
So just through you, Mayor, the question again for staff. Is the application again clear, the like for like? Is that clear, or do we need to clarify that in the current bylaw? I'm not suggesting, again, we need a consultant to do that. I think Councillor Boyle's kind of indicated that, you know, I think it's more for clarification. For me, that's the only piece that I need clarification on. I support the bylaw and I support the DC. But I think you identified that it's in the normal process of applying the bylaw, but is it clear that like for like wouldn't necessarily initiate the DC?
I'm going to go with to Robert for the answer to that.
Through you, Mayor. The way the bylaw is currently worded, when a like for like swap scenario happens, they have to have, like, we have to have evidence that they installed it with a permit. And I think we've issued 10 park model trailer permits to date in the township. When I went searching, we found virtually none except for the ones that have trickled in between last year and this year. And we have a number of in process, and we've collected 1 development charge, to my knowledge, in the entirety of the installation of park model trailers in our township.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. I haven't spoken to it. I know that there has been a threat of an appeal. I don't know whether even if we went with another option, that would stop that appeal. It might go forward regardless, and that's not a reason to all of a sudden change direction, worrying about some possible appeal coming forward. I am not of a mind to spend another $8,000 with a consultant, because if we do want to amend the bylaw, we have to go through the consultant. Is that right, Lane?
That's correct. We'd have to have an additional background study.
So I am also in favor of option 3. So unless there's any other discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We have consent items before us. Anything anyone wants pulled? If not, I'll look for a motion to move them. By Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Koulis. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We where am I here? Under other business, the AMO conference delegations, Angie.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The deadline to submit our requests is May 30th. So we do have time for the next meeting to bring those ideas forward. If you have anything right now, you can certainly suggest it. But if you would want to wait, we do have time for the May 27th agenda to consider it. If you're thinking about something, you know, if you let me know in advance, I can put it on the agenda so it gives the rest of council an opportunity to have some consideration for what people are thinking about.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a closed session to deal with. Before we go in, let's pass the one bylaw that we have for the alternative voting. Can I have someone move that bylaw, please? Councillor Henry. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? That's carried. Motion to go into close, please.
Oh,
Councillor Boyko, seconded by Councillor Koulis. Yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just wanted to note that we will have one additional litigation matter to add to the agenda and close it, and it's verbal. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, did I call the vote on that to go into closed? Yeah, okay. We'll go on into closed. Thank you.
Maybe we'll just take a couple of minutes because we do have somebody joining us for the meeting, so we'll let them get signed in. So maybe
Okay.
5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.